Hey everybody, this is Benjud. Hope you're doing well. Today I want to show you one of my favorite tools in the studio for over a year now. This is the Simplifier Bass Station by DSM Humboldt. It's a great company from Chile that I got to know last year at the Guitar Summit in Germany. And they gave me this unit to check it out, and finally here's my short review of this wonderful unit. I hope you enjoy this. It's a great tool for the traveling bassist. There is an amp emulation in here with a bunch of caps based on the SVT by the glorious company Ampeg. But DSM Humboldt did such a great job with this unit, and I want to show you some of the functions of this unit here in this video. Check it out. Alright, so let me give you a short overview of all the functions and knobs and switches we have on this unit. There are quite a few, and DSM Humboldt is very well known for having a lot of possibilities, a lot of connectivity on their units, and this goes equally for all the bass units as well. So let me tell you about the connectivity first. We have a lot of possibilities here as well. So first up, on the top right, we have the passive active switchable input. There's a switch underneath the jack cable you see right here. There you can switch between active and passive mode, dial in the right amount of input volume into the unit. Next up, we have the jack output. So there's a switch down there where you can switch between out and through. Through means you go directly through the unit without any processing. Out means you include all the processing and go out through the jack input, which is very useful if, for example, you have an audio recording unit that only supports jack inputs. So you can use this output to connect to your audio recording device and still would have the possibility to go through all the processing of the unit. Next up, there's the power connector. I'm using a 9-volt DC cable right here. Unfortunately, this unit only supports a wired connection, so you don't have the possibility to run it with a battery. Maybe this is something for the future. Okay, so next up we have the two most important connections on the unit, which are obviously the outputs. So we have one main out over here, top left, and next to that we have the parallel out. Down here there's a switch where you can lift the ground, which always is very useful if you have to deal with ground problems. Down here we have a connection for our headphones next to the aux in, and we can adjust the volume of our headphones with this knob right here. Next up we have something very interesting. We have two FX loops that we can integrate into this unit. We have a preamp FX loop and a parallel FX loop. So a preamp FX loop will only affect the preamp signal, and obviously the parallel FX loop will be inserted in the parallel signal. Last but not least, always a very useful tool, you can invert the phase with this switch on the right here. So whenever you blend two signals, always make sure you check the phase so you can get the most powerful sound out of your two signals that you want to blend together. Alright, so now that we have all the connectivity covered, let me take you into the functions of this unit. You could divide this unit into three parts. Cabinet emulation here on the left, preamp emulation here on the right, and the blending options here in the middle. First things first, let me cover the cab emulation. You can switch between three overall sounds: modern, bright, or warm via this switch right here. You can decide what kind of cab you want to use, a 4x10, 8x10, or 115. You can play around with the sound of the cabinet as well, for example the mic position and the typical resonance that you get from your cabinet via this knob right here. Very powerful. We dive deeper into that a little later. Next up we have the preamp emulation, which is based on the classic Ampeg SVT model. And I gotta say, I'm with Ampeg, but I don't yet own an SVT head. But having this amp in my collection was always a big dream of mine, and having this unit emulating the SVT in such a great way is a huge benefit in my everyday studio and stage work. So like the SVT, we can dial in the gain for grid via this knob right here, adjust the volume because obviously when we dial in the gain, we always lose a little bit of volume. It's basically an overdrive, so the signal gets compressed a lot, and we need to compensate for the volume loss via the volume knob. We have a 3-band EQ down here, high, mid, and bass, and we can adjust the mid frequency via this switch right here from 1.5 kilohertz to 400 hertz to 900 hertz. So classic mid frequencies that we want to support with the bass to make it cut through the mix and have fun with it. Last but not least, we have the blending options right here. So we can dial in a dry or wet blend of the cabinet and the preamp. We can go very extreme with the preamp, for example, and dial it back into the cabinet blend a little more, so we don't have as much grid from the preamp running into our parallel out. So this is something to play around with, and we dive into that a little later in the video. And we can adjust the blend of the overall sound of the preamp and the parallel sound that we created. Also, a very interesting feature is this parallel low pass filter. In the center position, it's turned off, but we can roll off all the top end at 500 hertz or even at 100 hertz just to have a little sub underneath our dry signal, which is always very powerful and gives it much more character. All right, let's dial in a basic sound. I start by adjusting the preamp. Dial back the grid a little bit. Let's bring in the cap. Dial back the preamp a little bit. A little more centered. Set on warm. 115, which is very typical for Motown kind of soul. A little more bass. Put in a little bit of resonance instead of putting into a lot of bass. Got rid of the mids a little bit. Maybe add more at 400. Try a modern sound. Beautiful. Beautiful sound. Let's say, for example, I only want the sub here, so I could it's always beautiful. Let's go for a bright sound. The resonances are beautiful. Let me go back to a 4x10 to get it even brighter. Now I can get really gritty. Overdo it. Just a little grit is nice. Beautiful sound. Okay, so now let's check out what is this doing at a rock kind of genre. Okay, let's get really gritty with this one. Classic SVT 8x10. Bright sound. Some more mids. Maybe add even higher. Wow, this really cuts through. Be careful with the volume knob. You can get really crazy and overdo it. Going with the modern sound. Get a little more bass out of there. Oh, that's a beautiful sound. Warm. Let's go for the 115. Yeah, I like the 810. Maybe a little off axis to have it not as aggressive in the mids. Dial back the resonance a little bit. Oh no, we need the resonance. That's a beautiful sound. Let's try this with the band. Let's get really aggressive on this one. Some of the dry signal, maybe. No, we need the cabinet. That's very helpful right here. So we can just use the sub information from the cabinet. And here the phase inversion is really important. You can tell there's a lot more low end coming if we invert the phase. Although it would work in this kind of situation. Make it really cut through the mix. feel like the resonance is a very powerful tool. I really like the modern sound here. What a beautiful sound. Let's try one more example. Okay, we need to dial back the aggressive setting again. And with the sound, I'm looking for a very body kind of sound. Almost Motown-y. You don't need to make signs out of this phase switch right here. Try out what sounds best and what gives me the most solid bottom end. In this case, I feel like the normal phase is just fine. And I want a lot of the cabinet sound here. Although the preamp sounds really, really good. Beautiful. Beautiful resonance. I like the 4x10. I really want to exaggerate the finger kind of sound. Give it some highs. A little grit. Too much. Beautiful sound. I love it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short review of the Simplifier Bass Station by DSM Humboldt. I think it's a very great tool for the traveling bassist, for the studio musician. Whenever I wanted to have some rocky, edgy, gritty kind of sounds, I've been using it in my studio for over a year now. Whenever I take it on the road, I run it in parallel mode so I can give out the amp signal and my dry signal to the front of house guy, and he can blend them together very easily. This is very, very powerful. Go check it out if you have the chance. I'm not supported or paid by DSM Humboldt. I've been using this unit for over a year and I'm very convinced by the quality of this product and also the capabilities that you have with this product. Go check it out. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.